introduce your keynote speaker for the evening, Veteran Chief Warrant Officer Fred B. Baker II.
That's the first I heard TAP's choral group, and I think it was just fantastic. Before I begin, there are a couple things I'd like to do, but first, everybody just stand up for a second, shake it off, relax yourselves a little. That's good. Very good. Okay. Feel a little better? Okay, you can sit down. You didn't have to wait for me. Before I begin, how many veterans do we have in here? Can we see a show of hands? And I'm going to give you two more words that you hear just lately. Welcome home. I say welcome home because that wasn't always the way we felt in this country. Now, I look down here and I see these young looking Marines here, and they really look good in their uniforms. And you can always tell a Marine. You can't tell them much, but you can tell a Marine. Then we have our Air Force. What a bunch. Those guys actually wear parachutes. I was a pilot in the Army. We didn't wear parachutes. They not only wear parachutes, they get to take their recliner out of the aircraft with them. Then, of course, the Army. Soldiers in the Army, they're called grunts. They haven't had to do lifts out of aircraft since Vietnam, but they still call them grunts. I don't know why. And then, of course, there's the Navy. Well, there's also the Coast Guard, but what are they really? But the Navy, well, wait a second. The Coast Guard do teach their people how to swim. They rescue people. The Navy, if you're swimming in the Navy, you're in the wrong place. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I was a helicopter pilot, not to be confused with fighter pilots in the Air Force. If you're at a military function and you don't know who the fighter pilot is, don't worry, he'll tell you. The difference between God and fighter pilots, God doesn't think he's a fighter pilot. I'm very pleased to be here tonight, and I've been thanked for showing up, and I think it's really nice to thank me and everything. I like that, but you know, the truth of the matter is, it's me who needs to thank you. I want to thank you for the community spirit, for the way you treat these young men and women who are going into the service today. This, like I said before, was not always the case. See if I can arrange this thing a little different. Can you still hear me all right? Okay, our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, once said, "Freedom is never more than a generation from extinction." We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them so that they may do the same. I came here tonight not to speak to you young folks about your impending service to our nation, but rather a single aspect of that service. As you continue forward, the status, if you will, of being a veteran, and some of my experiences in that status. What is a veteran? Legally, under federal law, the definition of veteran is any person who served honorably on active duty in the armed forces of the United States. Discharges marked general or under honorable conditions also qualify. The great state of New York defines a veteran, defines veteran eligibility in the Summary of Civil Service Law, Section 85. were members of the armed forces of the United States, served on active duty for other than training purposes in time of war, were discharged honorably or released under honorable conditions, are residents of New York, and have documented their eligibility. For me, a better definition is a veteran. Whether active duty, retired, National Guard, or Reserve, is someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States for an amount up to and including my life. That is honor, and there are way too few in this country today who understand it. You young folks entering the military may understand the consequences of that simple little phrase. I sincerely hope you give it serious consideration, for I will tell you for sure, those consequences are foremost in the hearts and minds of your families. As Thomas Jefferson said, the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. 7% of our population is veteran. 7%. Only 7% have stood as a firewall to the protection of our liberties and freedom granted by we the people in the Constitution. It all begins with your term of enlistment, the oath. I, and your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers so appointed over me according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And the most important part, so help me God. My active service began in June of 1967 and ended in August of 1971. My tour in Vietnam was from October of 1968 until October of 1969. Just a little more than 4 years earned me the title of veteran. And just 1 year, just a little more than 1 year, qualified me to that wonderful title of combat veteran. I have always been extremely proud of my service and the service of those with me. However, there are still many who don't share that same pride. In fact, there are those who deride the military, and the reasons are varied and sometimes quite illogical. I personally find such behavior deplorable, and will herein dispel some of the myths that have been passed down through the generations and perpetuated by the foolish and ignorant as seen through the eyes of this veteran. Vietnam veterans have a strong distaste for protesters. Those who protest our current war are blissfully ignorant to the history of their predecessors. They think that because protests ended the Vietnam War, that Vietnam veterans would flock to their cause. For us, it is much more personal. During our time, we were insulted, assaulted, reviled, and our reputations maligned. In our opinion, all who were against the war in Vietnam used any and all means, including outright lies, to further their cause. Most egregiously, they blamed Vietnam veterans and other soldiers for the war. A friend and fellow veteran from Tennessee, John Nichols, once said, it is hard to consider one's service as honorable when your nation views you as dishonorable. The great philosopher George Santayana said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Among the many insults hurled at Vietnam veterans, the term baby killer was the most often heard and the worst as far as veterans feel, because that's not who we were. While many at the time blamed us for a wide range of atrocities, the truth is, to my knowledge, there is only one that occurred. It happened on March 16, 1968. The United States Army soldiers of Charlie Company of the 1st Battalion, 20th Infantry Regiment, 11th Brigade of the Americal Division received its orders to clear out possible VC sympathizers in the village of My Lai. Colonel Orrin Henderson authorized his officers to go in there aggressively, close with the enemy, and wipe them out for good. The officers of Charlie Company evidently considered the village to be totally VC or VC sympathizers and ordered what became a killing frenzy. The mass murder killed 347, according to our records, 504, according to Vietnamese records, innocent civilians. And it occurred in just 2 hours' time. The massacre ended when a reconnaissance warrant officer helicopter pilot, Hugh Thompson, landed his aircraft between the soldiers and the retreating villagers and threatened to open fire if they continued their attacks. Unfortunately, this atrocity became the blueprint for the fabrications and lies of atrocities given by the Winter Soldier Project, as it was put forward by a group called Veterans Against the War, Vietnam Veterans Against the War, which is a total misnomer, as most of them were never veterans, and some, very few, saw combat. Their testimony before Congress added credence to the allegations that the soldiers in Vietnam were out of control, sociopathic killers, and branded them and all veterans of that era with the stigma that lasted for years. Needless to say, our returning veterans did not receive a very warm welcome home. As a Vietnam veteran, I have often visited the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. On my second trip in 2005, a fellow veteran approached me and greeted me with the words, "Welcome home, brother." A wide range of unexpected emotions and inability to respond instantly struck me. It was the first time anyone had ever addressed me with that simple yet powerful saying. I have often reminisced about that day and of the emotions I felt. Today, whenever two or more veterans get together, greetings are often exchanged. Mostly they're questions like, where did you serve? What was your unit? What year or years were you there? But the very most frequent address that veterans say to one another today is "Welcome home, brother," or "Welcome home, sister." For a few years, Vietnam veterans used this exclusively toward each other. Recently, it has become a greeting for all veterans. Service to your country entails a lot of responsibility. As a 19-year-old medic at Fort Sam Houston, I delivered 3 babies to 2 mothers in the back of an ambulance. On July 9, 1969, while in Vietnam at the age of 21, I was the aircraft commander in charge of the command and control aircraft for the air security of the President of the United States in a war zone. In Germany after Vietnam, I was assigned to D Troop 2nd Squadron, 4th Cavalry of the 4th Armored Division. We were the top 40 pilots in the United States Army, supposedly. How I got picked, I'll never know. But our mission was to prove that an air-mobile cavalry unit could effectively take on superior armored forces in a European environment. We not only proved we could, the tactics that we developed back then, 40-some years ago, are still used today. I was also sent to Firth, Germany, as the aircraft commander for Brigadier General George S. Patton, the son of the same famous World War II general. My mission was to ensure that he would be a safe pilot, since he may have been given preferential treatment in flight school. I challenge anyone here, to come up with any instance in the private sector where that much responsibility is given to someone not even 24 years of age. These responsibilities were not given to me alone. Almost everyone who serves is given the opportunity to excel beyond expectations. I want to tell you that once again. Almost everybody in the service is given an opportunity to excel beyond expectations. It is there. You just have to take it. With or without your knowledge, your service will imbue you with a strong sense of your own responsibilities as well. The greatest generation of World War II and Korea returned to build our nation with exceptional prosperity. Vietnam veterans, more than any other, have brought attention to post-traumatic stress, a serious disorder, also known as shell shock, combat fatigue, war stress, and battle fatigue. They brought the danger of the use of chemical agents before the nation more than any group since World War I, and they, more than any group, have been responsible for ensuring that veterans get the recognition they deserve. In the Pacific, World War II, in just 4 years' time, the average combat soldier saw just 40 days of combat. Just 40 days, World War II. In Vietnam, thanks to the mobility of the helicopter, the average combat soldier saw 240 days of combat. Today, our young folks have no real security, no real base camp. They know that a cop or soldier of a friendly nation can actually do them harm. They are under stress 24/7, 365 days a year. They go back for 3 and 4 and sometimes 5 tours of duty. We are losing 20 a day to suicide. That's 1 every 67 minutes. Who's out there for them? We are, the veterans, their brothers, their sisters. We appreciate what they're doing. Before speaking, the responsibilities continue. The returning soldiers of today, brothers and sisters, need our support as much as any other. Who is better qualified to lead the way than veterans? Before speaking here tonight, I provided a biography to our community salutes. I hope you had an opportunity to read it. Not so much because it's about me, but I left out something very important. I didn't mention my affiliations, which are extensive. I belong to several organizations, but more importantly, I belong to several veterans organizations too. I am a life member of the United States Army Warrant Officers Association. I am a life member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, a life member, former adjutant, former quartermaster, and national aide-de-camp of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I am a life member of the AMVETS. I'm a life member, former chaplain, vice commander, parliamentarian, historian, adjutant of the year 2010, and presently Judge Advocate General for the American Legion. I'm also a present-day district deputy commander and adjutant for the 15th District of the American Legion in Pennsylvania. And I am a life member of the Veterans of the Vietnam War Incorporated, whose motto, "Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another," has been taken to heart by my generation with more than lip service. It is a solemn responsibility. I'm pleased to tell you there's nothing special about me. I'm not cream of the crop like you young folks are. I'm 65 years old, but I often mention I wasn't an ambitious student in high school. I graduated at the top 4/5 of my class. I was a college dropout. And although drafted, I served a little more than 4 years in the military. I have been around the world and gained knowledge granted only to a few. Nowhere, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, nowhere in the world does such good fortune come so regularly as in the United States of America. I mentioned I'm 65 years old. My entire life has been shaped around the mold of service to my country. While I may from time to time be critical toward whoever leads our government, I will forever maintain a love and pride and loyalty to my country and to the 7% who are serving and have served. If you have the good fortune to visit our war monuments on the mall of our nation's capital, think of the sacrifices of those remembered there. To veterans, those monuments are sacred. To our nation, they are reminders that freedom is not free. To the world, they represent that we and we alone are willing to sacrifice not for the attainment of foreign land, monetary gain, or dominance, but for the ultimate benefit of freedom and liberty. Therefore, I ask you to thank veterans for serving and be sure to tell them they are welcome home. Let me conclude by reciting the words of a prayer from the flag ceremony performed at every stated meeting of Freemasons in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. O eternal God, through whose mighty power our fathers won their liberties of old, grant, we beseech thee, that we and all people of the land may with loyalty, fidelity, and courage maintain these liberties. Protect and assist all who are serving their country at home or abroad, by land, by sea, or in the air, that they, being armed with thy defense, may be preserved evermore in all perils, and being filled with wisdom and girded with strength, may do their duty to thy honor and glory. Amen. May God bless you, young folks, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.